Hey, welcome back, guys. Happy Monday. Hope everyone's doing well. This is going to be a Rams live stream that's entirely dedicated to their draft post DeSean Jackson. I don't know. All of a sudden, I'm losing my voice, so you'll have to bear with me here. We're gonna push through this. I have it all set up. We're doing slideshows and all that, so I am releasing my 3.0 mock draft for the Los Angeles Rams, following the DeSean Jackson signing. It really changed a lot for me. I mean, let's just start off with I don't think Dwayne Eskridge is going to the Rams anymore at 57. Maybe I was ignorant for thinking that to begin with, but the fact of the matter is that there's going to be a lot changing. So we have another mock draft. I don't like doing a ton of mock drafts. As you guys know, I was very, conservative in my approach of mock drafts. I know there's people that do like 10, 11, 12. I mean, I'm on my third one and we're not even in April yet. So I feel like I have too many. But this is just the way it worked out. And we're hoping to end up around 5. I think 5 is a good number, maybe 6. But before we get into it, this show is sponsored by our friends over at Manscaped. You can go over to manscaped.com and get 20% off and free shipping when you use promo code JKB or DTR. So that is that. We're going to get into it. Welcome, everybody. What's up, Samuel? How we doing? I forget who said DeSean Jackson was going to the Rams, but you were right. And I was wrong. And I'll admit that. I was wrong. And you know what? I don't hate it as much now that it happened because DeSean Jackson, when you look at it over the last 10 years or whatever, is maybe the best deep threat in the entire NFL. So, that's something to keep in mind. But we will move to the good stuff. And that is the mock draft here. Rams 3.0 mock draft. You guys ready? Let's do it. All right. So here we are. We're kicking it off with a new pick at round 2, 57th overall. We're going to go with Dylan Moses here out of Alabama. Inside linebacker, 6'3", 240 pounds, senior. If you guys know me, if you've known me for a while, I love Dylan Moses. I've loved him for a long time now. And Dylan Moses, to me, is somebody that I wouldn't be surprised to see a guy like Raheem Morris go out and get. Because we saw it, right? Raheem Morris has not gotten anybody for his defense. And, of course, you look at last year when the Rams brought in Brandon Staley was able to go out and get his guy in Leonard Floyd. Okay, Wade Phillips was able to go out and get his guys and Aqib Talib. And all right, there we go. Sorry about that. Thank you for following. Appreciate you, Jonas. Anyway, so what I was saying is that Wade Phillips was able to go out and get his guy in Kayvon Webster and Aqib Talib. Okay, so now you have a new defensive coordinator in Raheem Morris. We all know that coordinators like their own guys, okay? Head coaches like their own guys. Sean McVay got his own guy, okay? Sean McVay got DeSean Jackson, a guy that he coached as an OC in Washington. And so he goes out and gets him. And I feel like this makes a lot of sense. It's not his own guy necessarily, Raheem Morris, but if you're looking for a guy that resembles somebody that Raheem Morris used, a guy that is one of the best linebackers in all of football, and a guy to me that I think transcends the idea that linebackers aren't valued. And that guy is DeSean Jones. We've seen what he can do for the Atlanta Falcons and how big of a piece he's been for that defense. His ability, athletically, he can literally go all over the field. So when I look at a guy like DeSean Jones, okay, he's a game changer. And there are a lot of people that don't give credit to linebackers. They think they're overvalued, all that. I disagree. I think when you have a linebacker, the level and the athleticism of a guy like Deion Jones, which you do get in Dylan Moses, I think it's 100% worth it. I think you 100% should go and pull the trigger. Dylan Moses fell into my lap in this this stream, or rather this live mock draft that I did. And I'll tell you this right now. I know it's a linebacker, but hear me out when I say the Rams don't have as many holes as the mainstream media wants you to believe, okay? First off, they ran all last year with Troy Reader, Micah Kaiser, Traven Howard was out for the season, Kenny Young, and that was really it. They had Justin Hollins also play some inside linebacker at times, but that was really it, folks. So now, in my opinion, you go out and you look and you see, okay. So let's look at last year. Okay, let's look at this year. If the Rams are that close to a Super Bowl, if they're in win now mode, does it make more sense for them to go out and get an interior offensive lineman that will likely have to sit a year or two? Or does it make more sense going after a linebacker that instantly becomes the best linebacker on the roster, the most athletic linebacker on the roster, and adds an element to your defense that you've never had? So find me a defense, or find me a defense with the Rams that has had a linebacker with this athleticism. I don't know if you can. Maybe Ogletree, and I still think he's more athletic than Ogletree. So let's get into it. Why Dylan Moses? Why not Jabril Cox? Well, in this draft, Jabril Cox went a pick before, but Dylan Moses is my linebacker too, folks. First off, I have to preface that with Micah Parsons is an edge defender on my board. So I'm not saying that he's ahead of Micah Parsons. I'm saying that Micah Parsons, I think, fits better as an edge defender. But you look at Jeremiah, you look at, Jeremiah from Notre Dame, Owusu Koramoah. Can't even say that guy's name. And then after that, Dylan Moses. Now, what can Moses do? I'm talking about all these guys. Let's talk about the pick. All right, he's a well-experienced linebacker. He's a senior. This is a guy, if you know his name, you might know his name from recently, but I've actually been following this guy since he got his first offer when he was in middle school from LSU in Alabama. He's been on guys' radar for a while. He was the number one athlete in his high school class. And he did have an ACL tear. And he didn't look as strong this past season. But I expect moving forward, it's going to get better. I don't think he's lost a step. I do think he was coming back from an ACL tear, and he's only going to get better. So this guy immediately plugs in, and he's your most athletic linebacker. He can rush the passer. He can basically cover all over the field. He's got a serious, he's just super explosive, very, very fast. He ran a 4.46, I believe, at the age of 18. So I don't have any issues with this guy. There's no hesitancy or anything like that. His instincts to me are there. And I always feel as though like this, when I watched him at Alabama, I feel like this guy's always trying to not only secure the tackle, but when he's securing the tackle, he's always playing the ball. And so I like how this guy, when I was watching his film for the last 3 years, might I add, in coverage, for instance, he wraps up, but on top of it, he's trying to rip the ball out of the guys. So he's confirming he's going to get this tackle. And then he's going to add on to it and try to strip the ball. And that I love. So Dylan Moses, to me, makes yourself a better defense. You're already the number one defense last year. You're going to lose some pieces for sure. But he instantly becomes your best linebacker. And I'm just super impressed with Moses. He's falling on all these boards. And I think if he's there for the Rams at 57, I think they'll consider this. So this is where I decided to go here, and we're going to move on. And you guys might know a familiar face here. We're going to go round 3, 88th overall. We're selecting Jordan Smith, edge defender out of UAB. Look, you guys know I absolutely love this guy. He's one of my favorites in the entire draft. I think he's phenomenal, and I don't think anybody's going to be able to change my mind on him. I think he brings so much to the table. And Jordan Smith fits the archetype of what the Rams have really been after as of late as an edge defender. Okay? So he's 6'6". He's 255 pounds. I put the 6'6", 255 to 270 pound as their archetype, right? So if you're looking in the draft, I think there are guys like, for instance, Patrick Johnson would fit that bill. Peyton Turner, I kind of feel like he's more of a 5-tech, so I don't necessarily think he'd fit that bill. But if you're looking for guys that would fit that, Jordan Smith, Quincy Roche is good enough, but he's definitely pushing it. Jason Away, Joe Tryon. And then you go and you look at a guy like, maybe a little bit later on, and somebody like Janarius Robinson, who I really like his build overall. Of course, maybe some project type of guys. You have Ellerson Smith also at 6'6.5", 262. They met with Chauncey Golston out of Iowa. 6 foot 4.5, 268 pounds. There are guys out there that fit that bill. But when I look at Jordan Smith, I think this guy has the potential to be an absolute superstar in this league. I think he could be an absolute superstar. He can be a sack machine, sack artist, whatever you want to call it. And I think people just are sleeping on him. Jordan Smith might end up going higher than this, okay? And there's a good chance. But when you have a guy like this come into the roster, I know a lot of people are high on Okoronkwo, and I was. But Okoronkwo, it's put up or shut up time. And to be honest with you, I don't think that he truly fits what they're looking for. So in my opinion, he stays, but he stays as a rotational guy. And then you have Justin Hollins, who I absolutely love. So I love Justin Hollins. But I feel like Jordan Smith, the value here and the potential, you put him on the other side of Leonard Floyd, who you now have locked in for 4 years, folks. Come on now. That spin move, that bend, who bends like that? This is a very weak edge defending class. I mean, I look at this class and I think Jalen Phillips could be a stud. He kind of reminds me of TJ Watt. I look at this class, I see Azeez Ojulari has a chance to be very, very good. He's very fast off the edge. Gregory Rousseau, he offers something. Joe Tryon, I really like out of Washington. But aside from that, it's Roche and Jordan Smith that I don't think are getting talked about enough. And mainly Jordan Smith. So you have that 6'6", 255, and then on the other side you have that 6'6", 250 to 60 pound guy in Floyd. You're fitting your archetypes. And then it's really hard to throw, when those guys are putting their long arms up in the air, it's hard to throw on that. On top of it, though, when you have that speed, and keep this in mind, okay? Jordan Smith is not just an edge rusher. Jordan Smith, to me, is somebody that can also win as a run defender. So I love him. I think the only reason he's going to fall is because of the fact that he got in trouble off the field. And then, I think it was 2 years ago. And then the fact that he's at UAB. Well, I mean, we already know what happens with UAB players when they get forgotten. Go look at Darius Williams. He's already one of the best corners in the league. So Jordan Smith, you put him on that defense. You add Smith and Moses. I'm telling you, folks, I know everybody has their mindset on the interior offensive line, but hear me out when I say all you have to do is bring back Austin Blythe, and I'll fix it the next round. Because are you ready? We're going to move on, and we're going to go in round 3, 103 overall. We're going to go with Kendrick Green, center out of Illinois with the compensatory pick. Green is a developmental center, so he's not somebody that needs to be played right away. He can sit a year or two behind an Austin Blythe, and I think this is the way to do it. So when I look at Kendrick Green, the athleticism stands out. I think overall this guy has a chance to be, a 10-year starter, if you ask me. He's just going to be rock solid. So, why is no one talking about him, right? Because no one's talking about him. Who's talking about Kendrick Green right now? I think everybody's talking about, first off, you look at Quinn Miners, and everybody's talking about him. I think if the Rams don't pick him at 57, he won't be there. Simple as that. And I don't necessarily think they will. I think they'll consider it. But this is a developmental center. I think he's perfect for, the end of day 2, early day 3. The Rams, of course, don't have an early day 3. So I don't think you go wrong with Green here. I do think he's not a finished product by any stretch. But this is the type of guy that I'm going after. I think he's got, big time upside. And you don't have to worry about starting him immediately. Now, I think Green is flexible. I think he's versatile. I think he could play guard. I think his football IQ is there. He's not the most intelligent. He's not like a Barrett Jones, but do you want to be a Barrett Jones? So I think he's but I do his mental, his motor. Watching his film, that's the guy that really best that I've watched. But he's the guy where he would go in the draft, where I'd be like, yes. So I mentioned him in the last mock. We have him going a little, I believe, in this one, but this is where I decided to go. So, basically, to recap, you get your backer, you get a start, 2 starters you without a first round pick. You go out and you get a developmental center in the back end of the round. So now we're off to a pretty good start. No, we're not done. Next, I had to go wide receiver. And I brought up a guy that I had going in the 6th round. The Rams have met with him. Ihmir Smith-Marsette. You guys already know. I've talked about him before. I'll say this right now. The Rams are still going to draft a wide receiver. They're still going to. They're going to draft one at 57, but they're going to draft a wide receiver. So I look at Ihmir Smith-Marsette as the guy that would take over the role that DeSean Jackson is filling this year. Because DeSean Jackson is stretching the field right now. That's what DeSean Jackson's going to do. But I feel like they're going to draft a guy to take over for him next season. And we already know Sean McVay doesn't really play his rookies. They drafted in the 4th round last year. They got my number 1 tight end who they didn't even play in Bryson Hopkins. So expect Ihmir Smith-Marsette to, honestly, to save, DeSean Jackson from getting hurt. I bet you they draft a guy to take over for him next year in that role. But they actually decide to go with a guy like Ihmir Smith-Marsette because he can be a returner. And that way you're not putting that as much, of a taxing effort on DeSean Jackson, who has problems with injuries. So that's something to keep in mind moving forward, is that I think this is the position the Rams will address. Maybe it's a little early in the 4th round, but this is the Corey Littleton compensatory pick because they traded their 4th round pick in the Jalen Ramsey trade, and I don't think anybody's going to complain about that. So I think, Smith-Marsette, we're going to call him ISM because, I don't know, that's a pretty cool, nickname. But he would be the 5th wide receiver. And I think the Rams would be pretty good at wide receiver long term, having Smith-Marsette as their 4th receiver once DeSean Jackson is gone after next year. So keep this in mind. We got a linebacker for the Rams in Dylan Moses who can come in and start day one. We have an edge defender in Jordan Smith who can come in and start day one on the outside. Then we add Kendrick Green, who's going to help the interior offensive line. So we're addressing that. Keep in mind, they also drafted a bunch of guys. There's a ton of capital that's been invested in the offensive line. So I didn't want to go too crazy on the offensive line because you still have Tremaine Ankrum, who I love. You still have David Edwards. You still have Joe Noteboom. You still have Bobby Evans. I didn't want to go crazy on offensive line. Plus Chandler Brewer, who will be coming back. He missed all of last year because he was a high-risk COVID opt-out. But make no mistake, I think the Rams got DeSean Jackson because they didn't want to step on Van Jefferson's toes. So I like that they did that, honestly. Like looking back, I like that they did that because now Van Jefferson can develop. They're going to use DeSean Jackson maybe 8 to 12 snaps a game, will keep himself healthy. And then you have Amir Smith-Marset here in this scenario who can return kicks and punts, which will also keep DeSean Jackson healthy because they're keeping him away from one of the most dangerous plays in all of sports, the return game. So that's also something to keep in mind. But we're going to move on here, and we're going down to the 6th round. There are no trades, guys. I try to make this realistic. This next pick, I might be stretching a little bit, but you got to hear me out. We're going to do something a little crazy here. We're going to bolster the offense, and we are going to add Kansas running back Puka Williams in the 6th round here, 209 overall. No one has any clue where he's going to go. He's a 2nd-round talent in my mind, but with the off-the-field stuff, there's questionable stuff going on from his past at Kansas. I've watched this guy, his every single snap. He just has a level of explosion that's just not very common. You look at him, and he's in the same mold as a guy like Dwayne Eskridge, but this is a running back, 5'8", 175. Before you grill me on this, keep this in mind. I'm a huge Cam Akers fan. I'm a huge Darrell Henderson fan. I'm a huge Xavier Jones fan, and I like Raymond Calais. But you have to keep this in mind, folks. Cam Akers got hurt last year, and he's had some issues with injuries. Darrell Henderson got hurt last year. He's had issues with injuries, okay? Xavier Jones is a UDFA. He's never been in an NFL game before, so that's another thing. And Raymond Calais, to me, I think they just look at as a kick return guy. You know, maybe he'll get in, maybe he won't. So I look at Puka Williams as a guy that could be like Tariq Cohen, that comes out of seemingly nowhere and ends up being a absolute monster on this offense. And here's the thing, folks. You go to an offense like Sean McVay, he can do all sorts of things with Puka Williams, with Darrell Henderson, with Cam Akers. And then, oh, by the way, they have Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp, Van Jefferson, DeSean Jackson, Tyler Higbee, Bryson Hopkins. So this all of a sudden has a chance to be the best offense in all of football. I mean, think about this. Think about the explosion. Puka Williams, by the way, ran a 4.3 at his pro day. People were complaining because he measured in at 5'8 instead of 5'10 like it said on the site. Guys, we already know the college teams never list their players correctly, so I don't even care, okay? I don't care. If Puka Williams is there in the 6th round, I absolutely think the Rams would consider this. It would bolster their running game. And I'll say this. Williams was a superstar coming out of high school. He's a 5-star recruit that went to Kansas. He actually was part of the same recruiting class that Jamar Chase actually committed to Kansas, believe it or not. He then quickly decommitted and went to LSU. But before all of that, in case you didn't know, being a Kansas fan, I know this, Jamar Chase committed to Kansas. So they had Puka Williams, they had Jamar Chase coming there. Puka Williams stayed. And by the way, another running back in this draft was also at Kansas, Khalil Herbert, who went to Virginia Tech and blew up there. So Puka has already been in somewhat of a running back by committee approach. This is somebody that, operated with Velton Gardner shared time with him, shared time with Khalil Herbert. I don't think he'd have any problem with it, but you look at the ability he has, first off, in the run game, and then you look at his return ability, so you can add another returner to the mix with Marset. And on top of that, this is somebody that can be a slot receiver. He can line up outside. He can run routes. He can catch passes. And this is somebody, he will literally stop dead in his tracks and then accelerate 0 to 60, and he'll make anything happen. He almost single-handedly won the game against Oklahoma 2 years ago. I've watched this guy. I mean, you want to take this offense to the next level, give Sean McVay Puka Williams to go with DeSean Jackson and Amir Smith-Marset, and then everybody they already have. And I don't see how you're stopping this offense. There's way too many mouths to feed, sure, but you're going to have this rotation where you could bring in Darrell Henderson, and if he wants to come out, say he gets exhausted, and you have Puka Williams to deal with, and oh, by the way, Cam Akers is going to run you over. We saw what he did to Zadarius Smith, the stiff arm. That's not something you just do to some. I mean, Zadarius Smith is a huge human. So that's where I'm at on that. And then we're going to finish this up here with Tay Gowan, the cornerback from Central Florida, 6'2", 185. I'm a big fan of his. Okay, first off, you guys probably already know he was on my last mock draft. I think you have to go out. You have to grab a corner. I don't love David Long. First off, I want to sign Brian Poole. I've said that. He has that familiarity with the defensive coordinator in Raheem Morris from 2016 to 18. He played with the Falcons, Brian Poole. But he's gotten better every single year. He was really good with the Jets as a slot corner, but he has the flexibility to play on the boundary. Love Brian Poole. I think you can get him for cheap. So I'd love to see the Rams go and pick him up for sure. And then you go and you add Tay Gowan to go with it. And now that cornerback room all of a sudden looks pretty darn good. Gowan is somebody who you can't really sleep on. Athleticism, size. He didn't play this year. He opted out because he had a premature birth of his daughter. So, he had to deal with that. And I mean, I first off, I love the guy's desire. Love that he was putting his family first, but I also love that he's not done with football and he wants to, go into the NFL draft. This is the end of this mock. To recap, we're going to go back here. We're going to go to Dylan Moses at 57 overall. He'll start on our defense here. Then we go to Jordan Smith at 88 overall, and he'll start across from, on the other side of Leonard Floyd. Kendrick Green at 103 overall. Doesn't need to start. You could try and move him to guard if you really want to get him on the field, but the Rams are pretty fine. I think you get Green, you develop him. He'll take over for Blythe in 1 and 2 years. Of course, you need to re-sign Blythe. That needs to happen. And then 141st overall, we have Amir Smith-Marset, a guy that will eventually take over for DeSean Jackson. And then he's your fourth receiver, kind of the similar mold. We could look at Josh Reynolds like he runs way better than Josh Reynolds. He's going to go up and pluck the ball out of the air. And Amir Smith-Marset really reminds me of a Robbie Anderson with better ball skills. So, jump ball skills. So I think he has some serious upside if the Rams decide to cut ties with a Cooper Kupp or a Robert Woods down the road, or say Van Jefferson, God forbid he becomes a bust. Then you have Amir Smith-Marset as insurance in a very good wide receiver class. And then going back, 209th overall, Puka Williams. Gotta love him. Big fan of him. He would absolutely, he would terrify teams. There'd just be so many weapons. And keep this in mind. I've seen this. I've heard this. The Rams didn't add anyone. They lost Gerald Everett and Josh Reynolds, and they only added DeSean Jackson. You're not keeping in mind when you say the Rams didn't add anyone this offseason, the fact that they have Matthew Stafford. That just bolstered their offense to begin with. The deep ball's real. And by the way, at worst, if DeSean Jackson isn't able to get going, you have him as a decoy. So I'm sorry. Like, this offense has all the potential in the world as long as guys stay healthy. I don't see how you stop it. I think they'd be the number one in the league. And I don't see what the Chiefs did to combat that. I know they tried to go out and get Juju Smith-Schuster. That failed. And they also tried to get Josh Reynolds, and that failed. And then lastly, Tay Gowan to go out and fill out that cornerback room. Feeling pretty good about the picks. What are your guys' thoughts? You guys rate it. Give me an A, B, C, D, F, whatever you want to rate it. I'm all ears. Appreciate the A. We got the A. There we go. You guys like my new mock? A, in my opinion. I love it. There we go. Appreciate you, Preston. So apparently we're experiencing stream difficulties. That's a real bummer here. I don't really know why we're doing that. We're on the same the same settings. So if you guys are having problems with the stream, I do apologize. I'm not going to be streaming too late. I do want to catch the Kansas game. I mean, I know it's already happening, but, A+, B, A, B, B+. Yeah, isn't it funny, though? It seems like everyone just kind of takes for, not everyone, but, people that don't follow the Rams are kind of taking Stafford for granted. Like, he's going to be a little bit better than Goff, but not much better. But, obviously you guys know where I'm going with that. I think Stafford ends up having an MVP season. And another thing, keep this in mind, not to dog on my team, but Puka Williams wasn't even used correctly at Kansas. So, like, imagine what he could do in a Sean McVay offense. Just saying. I was very tempted. To go edge, but again, with Jordan Smith. There's a lot of good edge defenders that fall a little bit late. But I think one's good because I really like Hollins. They still have Terrell Lewis. I think this is your insurance. Terrell Lewis can't stay healthy, so this is your insurance for Terrell Lewis. Same body type, same build. He has more of a leaner build, but I think Jordan Smith is going to be a star. Yeah, I do apologize for the laggy stream. That's really unfortunate. That's really annoying. There's not really much I could do once we start streaming. I mean, the connection says it's excellent, so, I mean, somebody's lying. Not you guys, but I mean, either Streamlabs or YouTube's lying. Who's your one guy that you want to see the Rams go after? I know, right? Shot by Nolan. Crazy. You want Eskridge still? I mean, I love Eskridge. If they draft Eskridge, I'm not going to complain, even though they got Jackson. But you guys remember what I said. You guys remember what I said about free agency. You fill your holes in free agency so you can draft value in the draft. And that's what we did. The difference between Jabril Cox and Dylan Moses, I mean, they're both very, very athletic. They're both very similar molds, to be honest with you. I think really Jabril Cox, I I would say, he doesn't have the ACL tear. So, I mean, that's something to keep in mind. But, I lean towards Moses because I feel like he's the more complete tackler. I think they're about even, but I think like Jabril Cox is a very, very good tackler, but I feel like Moses offers upside tackling because while they're very good, they can obviously form tackle. They wrap up well. They start low, they wrap up well, and they're really hard to break their tackle. But with Moses, he's always trying to wrap up and then rip the ball out. So you're going to get more turnovers, I think, or rather takeaways from Moses than you will from Cox. And also, I do think, while Cox and him are on the same level of just about everything, I do think as far as like blitzing, I would probably lean towards Moses. I think Moses is a better pass rusher than Jabril Cox. But I think they're both outstanding football players, and I think they're both going to be really, really good at the next level. I know everyone's talking about Quinn Miners, though, going to the Rams. I won't be shocked if that happens. I won't. But, I think right now you're filling out the defense if you're the Rams. I think that's the most important in my opinion. Oh, okay. So let's talk about Clowney for a second. This is only going to be about 20 minutes more, maybe a little bit less. My throat's really not feeling it today. But what I'll say with Clowney, if you guys missed, I posted a thread on Twitter. I went back and I watched Clowney's film because I kept hearing Clowney should have way more sacks. He doesn't get enough sacks. And then, 100% the Rams should go after Clowney. And you guys know how I feel. I'm a big fan of Clowney. But when I went back and I watched the film, I understand both sides. First off, Jadeveon Clowney might actually be playing the wrong position. Hear me out when I say that. He's an outside linebacker, and I feel like he should be playing a 5 technique. Okay, he should be a defensive end in a 3-4. And I understand he's not huge. Like, he looks huge, but he's not like 270, 275, 280. But my biggest issue is that he has no bend. How did we not realize no bend? And over the last 2 years, he has the highest double team percentage of any edge defender, mainly because he focuses so much on his inside move that he causes double teams on himself. That's the issue with Jadeveon Clowney. And that's probably why he's not getting as many. He has no bend around the edge. He makes it very easy for a left tackle to get his hands on him and keep him stonewalled. And then when he tries to, cut in between the left tackle and the left guard, he can do it. But now you're putting yourself in a position where you have to get double teamed in order to do your thing. Clowney, to me, is way too special of a talent, athletically and everything, to not have any bend. Really, he has a hard time getting around that edge. That's something I just don't think is talked about enough. And I think that's the biggest issue with Jadeveon Clowney is that if you're looking at him, he's in the same mold as a Morgan Fox. He's not Morgan Fox. He's way more athletic than Morgan Fox. But Morgan Fox is a 5 tech, okay? Jadeveon Clowney, to me, is a 5 tech who's been playing out of position this whole time because he's super athletic, but for whatever reason, he has no bend. Do you guys agree with me on that? Because that's what I picked up on that. I finally realized, it finally clicked. I was like, Jadeveon Clowney has no bend. Like, what? So, that's been something that I've been thinking about for a minute now. And that's really all I can say about that. And those of you who don't know, and I don't want I don't want to talk to the people that already know. I don't want to seem like I'm putting you, but essentially the zero tech lines up directly across from the center. That's the nose tackle or the nose guard. The one technique lines on either side. Um, the two technique lines up directly across either guard. Three tech is going to line up across the guard's shoulder, and a five technique is going to line up directly across either tackle. So instead of an outside linebacker lining up on the other side outside of the tackle's shoulder directly across from them, and that is going to be the five technique. And that, to me, is what would allow Clowney to succeed when he doesn't have to go all the way around and try and use his bend, which is non-existent. I think he can really do something in this league. So I think that's the issue with him. Maybe he makes more sense as, a 3-4 defensive end, or maybe even a 4-3 defensive end. But as an outside linebacker, he doesn't look as comfortable, and he struggles off the edge. I've been saying that for the last, few days after watching his film. That's what I've been missing. And I think he can be thanks, I appreciate you following. I think he could be, he can get back to his old sack days, not old sack days, but I think he can get over 10 sacks. I just think he's in the wrong, situation about that, but it's something I noticed, and I noticed it mainly because there are a lot of guys in this draft that I think have the same issue. And another guy is Peyton Turner. And Peyton Turner, Houston edge defender, is a 5 tech. He's not an outside linebacker in a 3-4. There have been a lot of mock drafts sending Peyton Turner to the Rams, and I don't think that fills any void whatsoever. I think you could argue the Rams are one edge defender away from being absolutely monstrous in their front 5, front 7 even, if they go out and get Moses. But I just think, to me, a guy like Peyton Turner, he's gonna line up as a 5 technique. He's not an outside linebacker, so I don't understand why he keeps getting mocked to the Rams at 57. But I just don't think he fits what the Rams need. So I've been seeing a lot of guys like that. Carlos Basham as well. I wouldn't mind Basham. I wouldn't mind Peyton Turner overall. Those are not the guys I'm looking for at 57 overall. So yeah, I mean, as far as linebacker, if you guys don't like Dylan Moses, that's fine. Garrett Wallow, maybe a little bit later, 6'2", 230, former safety, converted linebacker, could be more of an option if the Rams want to, address the linebacker position, but don't want to put too much stock in that. Jamin Davis out of Kentucky might go in the 2nd or 3rd round. Big fan of his. Kind of reminds me of Littleton. He's always around the football. So, I really like him, 6'4", 224. Jabril Cox, as we already talked about. Cameron McGrone is somebody that I've talked about a lot. If Nick Bolton falls into the 2nd round, he'd be a nice option, could really fly all over the field. Someone mentioned Pete Werner. I'm actually not really high on him, or Baron Browning. I don't know. I just wasn't a huge fan of Pete Werner. I think he struggles in coverage. And when you have all these guys that really don't have many holes in their game, like a Dylan Moses, like a Jabril Cox, I'm not picking a guy that has a hole in coverage. Just not doing it. Charles Snowden is another guy I really like, maybe a little bit later on. Just kind of a Swiss Army knife all over the defense. He's been in every mock draft. This is the first one he doesn't show up in. The first 2, not the 3rd. Then after that, to be honest with you, that's it. I don't really look at this linebacker draft as anything super special. I think you have guys like Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah who are special. Then you have a Zaven Collins, who I think is very, very good. Cameron McGrone, Jabril Cox, Jamin Davis, Dylan Moses, Nick Bolton, Garrett Wallow, and Charles Snowden. Then that's really it. No one else really stands out to me. So that's how I look at, the linebacker group. The edge defender, I just don't think there's enough there. So if the Rams miss out on Jordan Smith, and they miss out on Quincy Roche or Jason Away or Joe Tryon, I don't think they're going to get anybody worth taking. Maybe Janarius Robinson in the 4th round might make some sense out of Florida State. I know some of you have mentioned him before, but I don't really see, maybe Chauncey Golson. I need to see more of him, but I know they met with him. So, that's how I look at it. And then, people were asking me about corner on Twitter because it's, right now the Rams don't have a corner outside of David Long. But, I'll say this. This corner group, you can probably find a guy a little bit later on. I know there's a lot of Cal fans in here, so, you could look at Bynum, somebody that I do like, a little bit later on, Cameron Bynum out of Cal. Brian Mills out of North Carolina Central, Rodarius Williams out of Oklahoma State. There's some guys. I'm not like super thrilled at this cornerback class, but obviously Tay Gowan is somebody I really like. He's been in back-to-back, mock drafts. So I mean that's that. And then, with the receiver room, I think you're looking. I mean, I have Amir Smith-Marset as the guy that they would target, but they could go and maybe get a Jalen Darden out of North Texas. There are definitely some guys. Marquez Stevenson's been mentioned in this as well. My biggest problem with Joseph Asai is that he just seems so raw to me. Like, I don't think Jordan Smith can start. I wouldn't start Joseph Osai. And actually, the reason real quick, almost drafted Darius Stills in the 4th round. I really like him out of West Virginia. I think that would have been a nice replacement for Michael Brockers. Because also keep this in mind, folks. The Rams weren't trying to move on from Michael Brockers because they didn't want another defensive tackle. It would have created a logjam for sure, but that's a lot of really good depth in the defensive line. They moved on from him because he wouldn't, they couldn't agree on a pay cut. And the thing is, I know people are first to say he's not a team player. You have to keep this in mind. Michael Brockers was going to have to take a significant pay cut for them to stay under the cap. So that just wasn't going to happen. And he's a good player, and he had a really good year. 5 sacks at that position is not easy. So I look at Darius Stills as somebody very quick off the snaps, got a really good first step. I think he would have been a nice addition in the 4th round, if not Amir Smith-Marset. I decided to go with Amir Smith-Marset mainly because I love Eric Banks. And I think Eric Banks is like my sleeper on the defensive line. And I've already said it before, and I'll say it again. I think he's going to be the next Mo Fox on that defensive line. I think that's why they were able to let him go, because they really like Eric Banks, who's already had experience under coach Eric Henderson. Now Eric Henderson is coaching him again. So I feel pretty good about that. What UDFAs would you take? Well, we don't really know the UDFAs yet, but I mean, I don't know. There's some defensive line. I mean, I'd look at Zinde Johnson from California. He intrigued me a little bit. But as far as guys off the top of my head, there's not I could see him getting drafted and him not getting drafted. He's been in my mock draft before. Joshua Kane-Doe, 6'7", 247, physical freak from Florida State. I could see him being a nice addition in UDFA. If Chauncey Golston goes undrafted, him. There are probably some wide receivers as well. Maybe a guy like TJ Vasher, a 6'6", 210 wide receiver out of Texas Tech. Aside from that, that's really all I can think of off the top of my head. There's not like a ton of guys because it's just hard to know who's going to go undrafted, I'd probably say those guys and maybe Lamont Wade from Penn State as well. If he goes undrafted, Quinterio Cole as well from Alcorn State. I like him. I like his physicality. I think he could be a pretty solid, strong safety. Maybe not start, obviously not start day one, but, I think he could move into that. And maybe Christian Uphoff out of Illinois State. Aside from that, though, UDFA is really hit or miss. I've seen guys in the past. I had a really high grade on an old Rutgers wide receiver, Brandon Coleman. I want to say 4 or 5 drafts ago. and he went undrafted. And I was a huge fan of his, 6'6" wide receiver. Had him as a 3rd-round grade. He went undrafted. So, I just think there are a lot of guys that could go undrafted, and it's hard to justify, who would do that. Plus, I don't want to trash anyone's draft value, and just assume that they're not going to get drafted. One guy that really stood out to me, he had a 4.3, 40 time at safety. Tyree Gillespie out of Mizzou, the safety. I definitely have my eye on him. So, anything else, folks? We're wrapping it up here. Appreciate y'all. Let's. Jake's season prediction. You guys ask me this every single stream, and I say the same thing every time. If there's 17 games, they go 14-3. If there's 16 games, they go 13-4. If there's 16 games, they go 3-13. Grant Stewart. Samuel, you're the man with those draft diamonds. I see you. (13-4) if there's 17 games. Andre Cisco, safety from Syracuse. I'll keep an eye on him. I don't care how many games they win. As long as they win a Super Bowl, I don't care. They can win 8 games, limp into the playoffs, and if they win a Super Bowl, no one's going to care. What's up, Jake? How we doing? Yeah, I'm thinking 13-4, but I'm also thinking they're ugly as hell. I don't like the 17 game. Yeah, I don't like the 17 game schedule at all. I think Eric Banks is going to have a role in this defense. As far as Michael Hawks or like a Jonah Williams, that I'm not sure. I don't think there's enough spots at this point. I think you get one more spot to fill in for Brockers and Fox, and I think that's going to be it, because you have Ashawn Robinson, you have Sebastian Joseph Day, you have Aaron Donald, then you have Greg Gaines. So they'll probably go with a 5 or 6 man rotation. So, if they don't draft anyone, then it's Banks and Hawk, I think. Yeah, I do, LA Rams. I say it every time. I didn't see yours, so I apologize. What will the Lakers do now LeBron and AD are hurt? They'll try to win. I'm wearing my Dennis Schroeder jersey because, right now this guy's going to have to carry the team. So, 17 games is clearly just greedy. They're just trying to make money. Hopefully Kansas doesn't lose to USC. That would really ruin me. Being as I'm a USC fan for football, I don't care for their basketball team. I don't have any issue against it. But I'm a Kansas fan with football, basketball, baseball, whatever. Kansas all the way. But I like USC, Alabama, Kansas, and I root for Albany since I'm in the Albany area. I don't really see what Brian Allen contributes to the team. I see a guy that, when he was in, I didn't like the pick to begin with out of Michigan State. Felt like the 4th round was way too rich. Should have been a 7th round pick. Lacked strength. I know people were saying he was this bulldog, and I'm like, I didn't see it. felt like he got pushed around pretty easily, and sure enough, he comes to the NFL, and that's exactly what happens. I think because of his struggling development, it's allowed a guy like, you know, Coleman Shelton to, continue to get these opportunities with this team. I'm not super high on Coleman Shelton either. I'm just telling you that he's only on this roster because Brian Allen isn't doing his job. I have a question. How many games and how reliable on snaps will DeSean Jackson be for the Rams? Do you think he'll be ready for the playoffs? I think the Rams are going to try to, have a way to, similar with the Todd Gurley, the pitch count thing. DeSean Jackson, they are well aware, has been having issues with injuries. He's missed 29 games of the last 3 years. So this is somebody that I think they're going to have a plan of attack coming in, 8 to 12 snaps a game, keep him away from the punt and kick return game. And, I think it'll work out. I don't think they would have signed him if it wasn't going to work out. But then again, they signed what's his face from the Cowboys, the running back, and that didn't really work out. I forget his name now. I don't remember his name. He played like one game. He had a touchdown, but yeah, he didn't work out. I never went to a River Rats game or an Albany Devils game. Now they're gone. I went to the Albany Empire when they came. I know they're coming back. Lance Dunbar. There we go. Thank you. Yeah, I went to Albany Empire game. That was fun. But yeah, it was like Tommy Grady, I think it was. Not Tom Brady, but Tommy Grady. They ended up winning the, not that year, but I think the next year they won the Arena Bowl. Don't spoil, but do you think Falcon Winter Soldier will be better than WandaVision? No. And I think it's going to be really good. Like, I was very happy with Falcon Winter Soldier episode 1, but WandaVision, it's just, first off, it's not even fair to compare the two. 9 episodes versus 6. WandaVision is a very, there's so much into it. And I think the thing about WandaVision is that there was so much intrigue about what was going on. You didn't know what was going on. Whereas what am I saying? With Falcon Winter Soldier, like, you don't know exactly what's going to happen, but like, it's not like a total mystery the way WandaVision was. There were literally like, why is everything black and white? So, I mean, I just feel like it's not really a fair comparison. One really put out all the stops, and this one's great, but they're so different. You can't really compare the two, in my opinion. I don't think Taylor Rapp's going to go crazy. I don't think Rapp's that type of player. I think he's a solid player. If he stays healthy, I mean, he could be solid, but I don't look at him as being like a breakout player. Terrell Burgess, however, buy your Terrell Burgess stock now. I think he's going to be in for a huge season if he, gets an opportunity. If the Rams don't draft a corner and they don't sign a corner, that tells you they like David Long more than, you think. But on top of it, I also think it gives an opportunity for Terrell Burgess to play the nickel corner position. So, I mean, we'll see, but I always looked at Rapp as a pseudo linebacker that, operates better around the line of scrimmage than outside. And, he's not the best in coverage. Obviously, we've seen, issues with his coverage, but, I think Jordan Fuller is going to do a great job. I think Terrell Burgess is going to do a great job, and they'll figure it out. But, I'll just say this. I know, again, that, there's people that like Kaiser and there's people that like Trayvon Howard, and I like all the linebackers. But I'll just say, if you add a guy like a Jabril Cox or like I did with Dylan Moses in this mock draft, you're going to reap the rewards. And the Rams have been a pretty monster defense without having a Bobby Wagner, Deion Jones, Devin Bush like linebacker. So just imagine if they had that. Something to keep in mind. But guys, I love y'all. Okay. Love y'all. We'll be off tomorrow. Maybe do a live stream with the gaming. get back into that a little bit, maybe play a Let's Play Madden or something. And then, yes, Justin Hollins is still with the Rams. And then what we'll do on Wednesday is we'll make it more NFL centric. We'll talk about the NFL in general. And then Friday, I don't know what we're going to do, but we're going to keep the content coming. And then, of course, you guys can follow at JKBogan DTSN. It is, where is it? Right over here. Also, be sure to hit the like, the thumbs up. Hit the thumbs up. It helps with the algorithm, and I'll appreciate you forever if you do it. But that's going to do it, folks. I'll have a Falcon Winter Soldier video coming out, right after I watch the episode. Be sure to watch it after you watch the episode so I don't spoil it for you. We're working on some other stuff as well, but we'll also have a Downtown Rams podcast. I think we're going to record next weekend, so we'll have a pretty good idea of how the team looks, I think. There should be 1 to 2 moves coming in, maybe a third move for the Rams, but expect an Austin Blythe and Brian Poole or somebody along those lines level of free agency. Keep that in mind. That's a win. If the Rams are able to acquire Brian Poole and bring back Austin Blythe, that's a win. Like I said, fill the holes, agency, and you go into the draft and you can hit on value in the draft. But that's going to do it for me. Appreciate you all. Love y'all. Peace.